Now I hit record. All right. Hello, everybody. It is so lovely to see you, and I'm so happy to see so many faces on here live. And I know a few of you are going to be watching this later. And so I'm gonna be formal today. Not really. I have some things, some slides to keep me on track because I have been known to go off track just a little bit. But I really want today to be an exploration of this question, of not question, this phrase, being true to you, because we hear a lot about that. So, what I would love to do is if you are here live, introduce yourself in the chat box, and you have two tasks. Say hello, your name, and one thing that you are hoping to get out of today's session. So what is one thing that you are hoping to get out of today's session? Please share that. Hi, Steph. And one of you is going to be surprised because I'm going to be reading something that when I was reminded of it this morning, I saw it as a picture in my phone. It struck me as the epitome of the journey to being you. So if you're nervous because you're on this screen at the moment and you think, and Elena has a picture of something I've said, you should be nervous and know that it's about to get read. So only because, again, I love you all. So let's see, as you're all chatting, and put it into the chat. Who are you? Why are you here? What is one thing that you are hoping to get out of today's session? And as you do that, I am going to do a fancy little thing. Let's see if it lets me do this. Because there are some of you that that's not what I wanted. Welcome to my world, everybody. How pretty is that screen? And you're all like, no. Um, yeah, welcome to my world. But I want to formally introduce myself because there are some of you that I don't know. And I just really want to give this opportunity for all of us to get to say hello and understand why we're here. So, and I don't actually like doing this on Zoom. All right, who is Elena? That would be me. I'm a life coach. What does that even mean? I ask great questions and I help you find your own answers. At the end of the day, I help you be the thing you've been waiting for because you really do have all the answers. You have clarity, you have purpose. It's just a matter of tapping back into that, getting to know that version of you. And so I help you do that. I'm also a yoga teacher. That looks like really more than anything, especially right now, yin yoga, which is my very favorite practice. And if you're like, what's that? Then we should chat and I'll let you know. But I bring one of the things that makes me a little different is that I bring yoga and breath work and practices from the yogic traditions into the work that I do, whether it's one-on-one or group work or even workshops like this. You just never know. I am the host, it sounds so official, of the Sunrise in Your Pocket podcast. If you haven't checked it out, it's a good time. I'm a wife, a mom. I am obsessed with leopard print, and I would just like you all to see. This is my fancy new leopard print jacket that I've now worn 3 times. When I wore it out of the store, during the Spark Hope retreat a few weeks ago, and today for you all, even though it's not cold out. Uh, so I'm obsessed with leopard print. I have enough leopard print, I realized, that I could wear, even in the winter, leopard print every day and not wear the same thing more than once in a week. How's that? Oh, I apparently have a problem with K's as I'm looking at my screen. You'll forgive me. So I'm obsessed with leopard print, singing out loud, much to the chagrin of my family, and Peloton work counts, apparently, and helping you be the one that you have been waiting for. So just, these are the people that make my life matter. And there is, of course, a picture of me working out because one of the things that 2020 has helped me realize is that I am so much stronger than I think I am. And I would offer that nudge to all of you. And creating, really recommitting to my body as a vehicle for showing up in the world is one of the ways that I stay true to me. It's how I embody this being true to you. There is my family in front of our house, and that is actually on right before we closed on our house, which was 2 years ago. We moved into our house 2 years ago on Saturday. How's that for fun? On the bottom, these funny looking people, those are my parents and my daughter and my Labradoodle Jupiter. And I shared that because I just like to be goofy with my family. And I'm so incredibly happy that my parents are back in the US after having spent most of 2020 in Italy, which is what they do. They go back and forth, but they kind of got stuck there. They're going back in January. There's a photo of me surfing or pretending to surf. That photo was actually taken the moment that I first stood up and did the whole surfer pose on the surfboard. And I was so excited that I didn't know what to do. So I tossed my hands up in delight. I didn't know the camera was on me. And so that was totally me just being me. And I will talk a little bit about core values today. And one of my core values is delight. And I can feel that moment just thinking about it in my body. And then there's a photo of my daughter, Samantha, who turns 16 tomorrow, you guys, tomorrow. I'm so excited because we've been working on her surprises. And Jupiter. And when we go stand up paddleboarding, because that's a thing that we all love to do. So let's talk for a second about why be true to you. And what I would like to do this is share with you, and I'm going to check your comments in the chat box in a second because I can't see them the way I have my screen. But I'm going to read something to you that I think encapsulates the power of what happens when you start this journey and this practice. Because let me be super clear. Being true to you is not a light switch that you turn on and then you're done, right? You're true to you in every moment of every day. If you want to think of it as a light switch, it's a light switch that you get to turn on every single day and really kind of every single step you take. Being true to you is a practice. And if you are new to me, you will, and start to hang out with me for any length of time in any capacity, you will learn that I talk a lot about practices and muscles and gardening. I like me a metaphor. But this is something that you get to choose. And sometimes, let's be super honest, it's easier to choose not to be true to you. Because sometimes being true to you ruffles feathers. Sometimes being true to you means potentially disappointing others. Sometimes being true to you means doing something that nobody else understands. And yet, when you are true to you, oh, you know those moments. You've felt them, you've had them, whether they're recently or way back when. Right? But let me read to you the words of somebody who is very much embodying this practice. And well, I'll explain it later. I wish I could see her face right now. I'm feeling in such a good place. I'm going to go back and watch the recording so I can see her face. I'm feeling in such a good place, like I've made real progress over the last several weeks, working through core values, creating a morning routine and habits that bring my day back in touch with my truest self. Growth, finally, moving down that path, using the tools in my toolbox and throwing out the ones that no longer serve me, and collecting new ones to guide me. I feel more confident, more positive, almost as if I'm starting to believe that I am indeed enough and that I am precisely where I'm meant to be. How's that for some apples? I adore you, Miss Hillary, who wrote those words. Right? You're welcome. I should have warned you. How does it feel to hear that back, my friend? You can unmute yourself if you want to share. You didn't know I was going to put you on the spot.
No. Well, so I'm going to try to not break out in big, heavy sobs right now and just keep it to a little few tear trickles. It's funny because at first I was like, oh, who said that? And it took like a few words until I was like, oh, those are my words. And it was a little surreal to hear them back like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, right.
Yeah. Right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot.
No worries.
So the reason that I shared that, right, is that if I could impress anything upon you today, and I'm going to go back and read some of the things that you've written as I ask you a question and invite you to reflect for a moment. The idea of being true to you there isn't a finish line. This isn't an outcome. This is not like one of the marathons that I've run. You guys, I'm thinking that maybe I might run another. Look at you, you're like, oh no. I mean, it's just like that little seed. But those of you that know me that know that when I plant that little seed of curiosity of like, what would happen if, that's when we're in for trouble. So be forewarned, 2022, perhaps, maybe we could all do it together by then, maybe. But it's not a marathon. It's not a finish line. It's not a destination. This is a practice. It is very much a journey. Okay. So what I would love for you to do for a moment is consider what would change in your life. Now, some of you I know are already doing this work, right? But for everybody, just reflect for a moment. And I really would invite you to write this down. What would be different if you could be true to you even more consistently? Right? So just take a moment. I'm going to be quiet. It is possible. And reflect. So you are welcome if you would like to share anything that you wrote to type it into the chat box, right? But it's important to think about, right? What would be different? Because that gives you a bit of I'm about to say destination, a place to aim for, knowing that it might end up looking very different than you imagine. but it helps you tune into the why. And a lot of the work that I do is focused on why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why is whatever it is important to you? And oftentimes, I think one of the things that keeps us out of being true to us is when we are not clear on our why, right? The purpose behind something. Okay, so I'm looking at the things that a lot of you want to get out of today, and it sounds like touchstones and help, being centered in your new locale. Hi, Never. Uh, and I adore you all who just want to reconnect to your Thrive Circle focus. You make my heart happy. So let me talk to you then about. So this being true to you helps you get clear. It helps you start moving in a direction, right? With more focus, with a sense of identity and responsibility to stay true to that version of you. So let's think about, that's not what I wanted. I love this quote by Paulo Coelho, who wrote many books, but my favorite is The Alchemist. You are what you believe yourself to be, right? And I think one of the things that gets in the way of being true to you are the shoulds, the expectations, old definitions for yourself, right? So I love having conversations with clients about, well, I used to be able to do this, right? I've told this, I remember telling the story a long time ago. Well, I used to be really consistent about spin class, but up until when I was pregnant, I would go to the gym every morning at 5:30. Well, as a new mom, perhaps that no longer became realistic. So holding on to that old definition didn't do me any good, right? So it's about releasing the shoulds, the expectations, the old definitions. And then it's about allowing and trusting and being. And those are the three practices, the three approaches that I'm going to share with you today to access this, right? There are lots of ways that you can explore being true to you. Some of them are quite in depth and are take time, like, for instance, core values. And those of you, who've done this work know. And it's the work that I love to do with people to help them understand what their core values are and why they're important. And yet you can find access points and get to know this version for you, right? Being true to me and to you means certain things. It looks like certain things. It feels like certain things. It sounds like certain things. So being true to you happens in your brain. It's the mindset that you believe. It's also the thoughts you tell yourself and the thoughts that you catch that you're like, oh, no, thank you. Being true to you might sound like a song. It might sound like a mantra, but it also, when you're not true to you, sounds like the inner critic that wants you to be doubtful and not take the step or wants you to feel guilty, right? It's going to look like something. It might look like you taking a nap one day or being out in the world on another day. It might mean going to sleep early. That's what it might look like. It might look like being out at the soccer field with your kids, right? On any given day, it might look different, but it's knowing the things that it could look like so that when it doesn't look like that, you can identify it. Right? So for me, being true to me looks a lot like leopard print lately. And this has not been something that has always been true in my life. Leopard print is new to being true to me. Purple has always been true to me, right? Certain colors. Music. It's funny. I talk about singing out loud all the time now. It's not something that I ever used to do because I was told that I didn't have a good voice. And yet, I always had music on in the background. I was always making a playlist, right, in high school and back to junior high for people, for friends, for, really in relationships. So being what it could look like a haircut, right? And that those times that you've gone to a haircut and you're like, oh my gosh, the outside of me finally matches what the inside feels like. Yeah. So let's get into these three practices that give you a place to start. So the first is getting to know and allowing, right? I want to see if, okay, getting to know, right? It sounds easy, except that it's not. And also know that if at any point you have questions, please put them in the comment box or in the chat box, okay? And I will, if I don't catch them now, I will make sure I catch them and get back to you later. Getting to know invites you to consider that you are in relationship with your true self. Just like you would develop a relationship, even in COVID times, with somebody new, right? Whether it's a neighbor or someone you meet somewhere virtually, it takes conversation. It takes exploration. It takes removing judgments and assumptions, right? Being true to you and getting to know or allowing is the same, because you have to build that relationship. You have to get to know what that truest version of you is about. One way to do that, my favorite, probably my favorite way, is to explore core values, right? What are the 3 to 5 things that make you most uniquely you? And some of you are like, please stop talking about core values. Yeah, no. I've got a podcast episode I can send you to. It's the work that I do that's at the foundation of the Thrive Circle. It will be the foundation of Thrive Unleashed. It is the work. And yet, that's not the only way to get to know you, right? One of the things that I love to do is ask myself a question that I'm going to give you, and it's a daily journal prompt for me. But before I give you that question, what I would offer you is that in this getting to know, there is an allowing of what you find that is required of you. So rather than getting to know you and getting information and then judging it, or thinking that you have to fix it, or that it's not good enough, anybody? Oh, okay. Thank you. Right? We have to allow. So we get to allow ourselves to be whole and to kind of love ourselves anyway, right? There's the idea of radical self-love, not my term. Sonia Renee Taylor, who wrote The Body is Not an Apology, right? This term has been around before. But this idea of really being a soft place to land for yourself. I love it when some of my clients come up with the best expressions and that they make so much sense, right? But giving yourself permission to be kind and gracious and maybe even loving, right? So this very first step of being true to you is getting to know and allow. And one of the ways that you can do this wherever you are on your journey is simply asking the question, who am I? And that might sound like a ridiculous question to ask yourself, especially in a journal. But guess what? It's not so ridiculous, because on any given day, if you repeatedly write that question and expect yourself to respond to it, you are likely to respond differently, right? Who am I might be, I am on fire, right? I am stronger than I think. I just rocked a workout. It might be, I am tired because I was up all night wondering what I was going to find on the news tomorrow morning. It might be, right? There are so many things there are so many ways to answer that question. But it's an opportunity to see yourself as something that is constantly evolving and transforming and is on a journey rather than a fixed entity who is stuck. Does that make sense? So it's one of the reasons that I love, and it becomes a portal, if you will, to dive a little deeper, right? So, who am I is one of my very favorite questions to start the day with that helps us get to know and allow. So, I'd love to know in the chat box if you were to answer that question today, who am I? What might your answer be? As you do that, I'm even going to give you time. I'm going to slowly sip some water because who am I is thirsty at the moment. You're like, I didn't know I was going to have to work. Why I call things a workshop and not a webinar. And for those of you that don't know, since I really didn't explain so much about myself, I was a classroom teacher for 12 years. So everything I do, or everything, I try to have everything I do be interactive and hope that you are able to play and explore while we're doing something, because insight only gets you so far. Who am I today? I am optimistic and at peace. I'm a teacher, a walker. I'm also hungry and thirsty, and I'm enjoying the sunshine. I love it. I'm a woman in progress, trying to better show up for myself and taking good care of myself. Oh, it's a good thing these are written because now I can say these things back to some of you. I am strong and determined. Oh, oops, note to self, I should have warned you. Things you write or say may be used against you in coaching with Elena in any form. So, this first step, right? Getting to know and allowing. The second step is trust. And if I showed you the screen page that I had for this, the slide, it actually says trust, trust, trust. Because it's the thing that I know we do the least. Marcia says, I'm grateful for where I am and excited to be where I will be in the future. I love it. Who am I? I am tired and at peace. Yes, and enjoying the beautiful changing color of leaves, constant cycle of improvement. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Carol. So, trust. Trust is about believing that you are guided by an inner teacher, that you actually already have clarity, and or that there is clarity within you. That's the first part of trust. There are two more parts of trust. Trust also requires you to filter and to discern what is fact that you can trust and what is fiction that you cannot trust. And there is no other easier way to say than, let's say 80% of what your brain says is not to be trusted, at least not at face value. And I just totally made up that statistic, so don't quote me on that percent. There's no there's no science behind that number. But right, our brain is a masterful storyteller. It tells us stories all day long. It also doesn't know the difference between an experience that you have lived and a imagined something. So if you are somebody who does all the what if scenarios, best case scenario, worst case scenario, ooh, if I do this, then this, right? Your brain starts to take that information and make it fact for your brain. It doesn't mean it should be trusted. I would offer you that there is something else inside you that can be trusted, and it lives in here. It lives inside your heart. It lives inside your breath. Some would say it lives inside your gut, right? Your gut feeling. Your gut feeling may actually come from your gut. It might come from your heart. It might come from, this area behind the eyebrows. Without worrying about the science, it is that knowing. So I cannot tell you how many times, even recently, I've had conversations with clients who have said something like, I know that I should have been doing this thing, taking a walk every day, brain dumping, right? Like you have certain practices that make you feel good. And yet for some reason you're like, nah, yeah, no, not important right now, or I don't really need it right now. And then when you stumble back upon it, you're like, oh my gosh, I knew, right? And that's a very concrete example. But oftentimes there is this sense of knowing that we dismiss. And so while you might not be ready to say, okay, I'm just totally going to trust my gut instincts all the time, I have a way for you to start to play with this. And the way is to start to be really discerning with what you know and what you don't know, especially right now when we are in a state of events, affairs, all the things that where there's a lot of stuff to react to, right? So the question that I love for this trust building is what, and this isn't going to be new for some of you, what do I know for sure in this moment? That's the key, because what do I know for sure is really big, right? But what do I know for sure in this moment brings you down to, like, if you think about I have this visual of a girl hanging onto a helium balloon and she's flying, right? She's getting pulled away from the helium with the helium. But when she comes back down to earth and her feet touch the ground, that's what do I know for sure in this moment. Does that make sense? Because I love my wobble chair because I can like spin all the way around. All right, focus. So I'm going to ask you to consider, to write down for just a moment, what do you know for sure in this moment? And I'll get quiet as you reflect. And once you've got that, feel free to type some of that into the chat. I promise I will not use it against you. I might use it to nudge you. So this question of what do I know for sure in this moment, right, helps us start to hear the chatter. So while you may be thinking, how does this actually help me be true to me, right? It helps you notice the chatter and start to really become aware of what is actually here for me right now. So I recently had a conversation, and before some of you think this is about you, it could be any of you. But the idea that I asked, when I got on a call with somebody, Tell me what's working. And what I got was actually things aren't working. Things have been really hard, blah, 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 right? And things had been really hard. And yet, throughout the conversation, this client told me little bits and pieces that were massive celebrations, right? They were things where she had implemented practices and boundaries and set herself up for success, things that wouldn't have happened before, at least not maybe as consistently. And so it's beginning to see those things and be able to trust that they're real. Because one of the things that gets in the way of being true to you is the belief that it's not sustainable, that you can only do it in short bursts, right? I see some heads nodding, right? That it's not something you can do in all aspects of your life. And yet, what if you could? And I'm not saying it happens overnight. So let me be super clear, right? It does not happen overnight. But these questions, these little practices, you start to build that relationship. Holly said, I know where I am meant to be, learning from Ellen and myself and others in the workshop what my brain and soul need to learn at this point in my life and journey. Thank you, Holly. Okay. So we had getting to know and allowing, trust, trust, and trust. The third step in this being true to you exploration is to be you. If only it were that easy, right? Here's the key. Being you invites you to not be reactive. Because what's the one thing that often takes us away from being you, being us? It's others. Sometimes it's our perceptions of others. It's their shoulds, it's their expectations, it's the weather, right? Whatever it might be. I really wanted to wear this coat today. I could have reacted to the fact that it's actually 65 degrees and it might be warm for me to wear this coat. And yet, being true to me was wearing the coat, right? I mean, that's a silly, silly example. And yet, how often are there things that are important to us that we dismiss because something else happens and we tell ourselves, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And then over time, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. Guess who is no longer that big of a deal, right? The other thing that happens when we get reactive is we respond to what we perceive are the demands of whatever it is we're reacting to. And unless we have really strong boundaries in place and a really strong sense of self, it can be hard to stay grounded and rooted. You guys, I have not always been the mom, the wife, the friend, the daughter that I would like to be, that my truest self is on any given day, right? Like, whoa! I mean, there's a reason leopard print. All fire all the time, except for when I'm not. But there is that place of being anchored, being rooted in self, so that then you can be you with more consistency. So I will share a very quick story. I may have written about this a few days ago, but our school system where my daughter goes to school is thinking about sending the high schoolers back to school in late January. Over the summer, this was a very big conversation in our family because my daughter's dad, my ex-husband, has some health concerns and considers himself very high risk. We're not going to debate his high riskness, okay? But he considers himself very high risk. I had a very strong opinion about where I thought Samantha should be in school, and he had a very differing opinion. And there were months, about 6 weeks, that were the most stressful in all of our co-parenting as a blended family kind of situation in the 13 and a half years that we've been doing this. And I was way far away from being my truest self because my stomach hurt every day. I wasn't sleeping, and I was constantly in my brain thinking about, oh, what's this conversation going to be? And I'm going to have to fight for this. And I lost track of what was important. And at that point, the numbers were becoming what they were. I wasn't even sure what I was fighting for anymore. But I was so set on, I'm going to do the very best thing for Samantha. And I almost pulled like nuclear options by inquiring and making phone calls that would have been nuclear for our family. So when the school system recently said, by November 6th, we'd like you to reconfirm your decision or change it if we do go back. First of all, I don't think it's a real decision. I don't think they're actually going to send the kids back in January. A. B, this is not my fight. He has concerns. He's got boundaries that he needs to decide on. And Samantha is old enough to decide whether or not those boundaries are acceptable to her. And all I can do is support her to help her figure out what's most important to her. But me inserting myself and going down this path and getting sucked in was not going to be helpful. And so I just shared that. I said, nope. If all things being equal, here's what I think would be best, but all things are not equal. Does that make sense? So I stayed really true to me. One consistent conversation after another. So for you, right, what this invites you to consider is this invites you to get out of reactivity. It also invites you to let go of all or nothing thinking. Because if we believe that this is about being consistent, that doesn't mean doing the same thing every day. That is one way to define consistency, but I would offer that consistency is built over time. Like you grow a garden, like you grow a muscle. But if you're thinking about a muscle, you're not going to exercise it the same every day. It will get tired and stop growing, right? So it's that idea that over time, which means small turtle steps that are actionable. Maybe it means doing something every day. And that's going to be my challenge to you, to think about what is one way that you could be true to you every single day. But that could mean lighting a candle and being intentional about it. That could mean opening your journal and answering the question, who am I? That could mean asking yourself the question I'm about to give you, right? It doesn't have to be the same every day, but I would offer that a daily practice helps you build that consistency muscle over time. Does that make sense? I see some skeptical eyes. No? Okay. So here's the question that I really like for this exploration. What does my heart need today? And again, this isn't new for some of you, but the intentionality behind it of, and you could add in the layer of, what does my heart need for me to be true to me today? You could also, I'm all about variations, right? This is where my classroom teaching and like differentiation comes in. You could ask yourself, what does my heart need me to know today? That could be a form of being true to you. So just consider for the moment your variation on that question, whichever one of those felt good. What does my heart need today? Or what does my heart need me to know today? Or what does my heart need for me to be true to me today? And give yourself a moment to respond. And then feel free to put it in the chat box. Boom, boom. So as you're doing that, I'm going to let you know that at the very end of our call, I'm going to issue you a challenge. And because one of my core values is delight, there will be something delightful if you participate. Um, but first, I'm going to introduce you. Some of you already know what I'm about to introduce you to because some of you have already said yes to it. But because I believe in this process of being true to you, I want to introduce everybody to Thrive Unleashed. Steph says it's okay to be exactly where I am. Yes, yes, yes. My heart needs me to be kind to myself today. Yes, Maggie. Okay. So I think about these things, and many of you know that I'm not somebody who I'm a coach. I like to do what I do. I don't necessarily like to sell what I do. And yet, this journey of being true to you is really powerful stuff. And I wouldn't be a good coach and a good friend if I didn't share with you this thing that I'm really excited about. Kristen says, I need to be my own safe place to land. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I am going to share this thingamajiggy with you and just introduce you to the Thrive Circle, which is currently accepting applications. And I don't know why it's not. Let's do this. Yes. So let's see. We're just going to go all the way down. See, look, all the things I said. So this is an invitation. Thrive Circle, Thrive Unleashed. It starts in January, but there's a reason I'm sharing with you about it with you now. To own the pen to your own story. Not my words. Robin Arzon, a Peloton instructor, Hamilton, recently did a Hamilton inspired ride or themed ride. And she reminded us that we have the power to own the pen to your own story. And I would offer you that part of doing that is to literally unleash your thriving on your life, in your world, within yourself. And it would be my great delight if you gave yourself permission to apply for, because this program isn't for everybody. It's an experience. This is a 6-month group experience to help you approach every single day, even when it feels like 2020, every single day as the best day of your life. Now, that doesn't mean that the entire day is going to feel like the best, but it means that thriving and thriving unleashed, that you can tap into that feeling within yourself in some way, shape, or form, because it is time for you to be the one you've been waiting for. So, Thrive Unleashed is all about finding clarity to be authentically you. It is to help you prioritize what matters most. It will help you claim what you want more of. It will help you create empowered boundaries and hold yourself accountable for and to your dreams. It will help you be your own BFF, and it will help you live a life of possibility. And my very, very favorite thing is that it will help you find support in a nurturing community that has your back. So just a few, and you can read these thoughts from Karen, who participated in one of the precursors to Thrive Unleashed. Thrive Unleashed is something that I've renamed. I had a year-long group program this year. It was a 10-month program the year before. Thrive Circle this year was 3 months or 7 weeks. And as I really started thinking about all the best pieces of these, this turned into a 6-month journey. And I'll share with you a little bit about what that looks like in a moment. But what clients are saying is when they began, Karen says, I had a little peek of what to expect, but I didn't realize how much this would affect me in doing the work of self-discovery. I'm enjoying the journaling and the brain dumps after meditating each morning. These are her practices. It's helping her put perspective into some things that she hadn't expected, like realizing that there were toxic relationships that she needed to end and make changes to reduce some of the major anxiety triggers. And there was a plug for core values. Identifying the core values is helping me accept some things about myself that I've been resisting. Sandra says, I've been working with Elena since 2018 through the various retreats and Thrive Circles and cannot begin to say what a transformative experience it's been. Her sessions are informative, give you many ahas, and arm you, this is my favorite part, with the right tools for your self-care toolbox. Her approach and sessions are much welcome and needed given these challenging times we're currently in. So here's the thing about the Thrive Unleashed. When we're done, after the 6 months, you will see, get to know, and love your whole self. Maybe for the first time in a really long time. You'll be clear on what matters to you and have a path to embody that why. You will focus less on fixing and more on living, awake and thriving. You will break free of old patterns and conditions that are keeping you stuck in survival mode. You will write your next chapter. But the best is you don't have to wait to live it. You're going to be it every single day. You'll be your own lighthouse, guided by clarity, vulnerability, and yes, your core values. You will fill up your own inner gas tank every single day, guided by your heart, right? Instead of your thoughts. You'll show up for yourself and others with more intention, curiosity, and less expectation. You will even find your voice, all of it. No more hiding or playing small. And you will celebrate an amplified living as your most authentic and empowered you. And here's what you get. You get every single month starting in January, 2 group coaching calls on Fridays at noon. It's usually the first and third Friday of the month, except for January, because January is wonky because of New Year's, plus a monthly challenge to up-level your thriving and a monthly Q&A evening chat that on some months is even going to be a book club. Oh, surprise for some of you that are already in. You will get six full session one-on-one sessions with me that are done virtually over Zoom. There will be 3 virtual retreats with all the VIP experiences. One of them in January is just for Thrive Unleashed, and I already have the 2 speakers that are going to be helping us dig deeper that day, and they are incredible. We're going to be getting into some Enneagram work and thinking about how to nurture and nourish ourselves literally from the inside out. And that's all I'm saying for some of you that like to know all the surprises beforehand. There will be a Kickstart hub of mini workshops to help you start thriving unleashed right away that will be available in December. So here's the deal. This group experience is not for everybody. It is an investment of time. It is an investment of resources, of energy. The cost is $4,197, which you can split up into 6 monthly payments of $699.50. And this is why it's an application process, right? You fill out a little application, it comes to me, we set up a call, and then we figure out if it's the right fit. You literally have nothing to lose and everything to gain by being like, I'm curious, right? Now, if you are curious enough to think, yeah, I would love this, right? Then if you apply, right? We don't have to have had our call, but if you apply by November 20th, that's Friday, that's next week, I think, then you will receive this Kickstart early bonus that is worth not a small chunk of anything. There will be 2 bonus Kickstart group sessions in December, a winter solstice visioning workshop on Saturday the 19th, and a bonus one-on-one call with me to help set yourself up for success. Also, you'll receive early access to weekly virtual yin yoga with me. and the opportunity to make 7 or 8 monthly payments instead of 6, which lowers the monthly price. So I dare you. You have everything to gain. You can head over to my website, and I will put that in the chat box in just a second to read all about it, get all the details, and apply. The application is a Google form. It's easy, and it's a dare to give yourself permission to be curious enough about your thriving that you want to explore it. Maggie says she can't wait. What is Kim? Kim's not here to start researching everything. Oh my gosh, I I didn't say it. From before, Marcia said to be at peace, and Christian said right, to be a safe place to land. So here, I promised you a dare, right? I want to see if there's any questions about these 3 being true to you practices or anything about that. Also, if there are Thrive Unleashed questions, there are some ladies here who have already said yes to this, so they could even speak to what they're excited about for it. Maggie's already said, I can't wait. And just to answer any other questions. You guys, I'm doing so good on time. I'm not going to keep you over unless you want to be. It is possible. But here's my dare to you, my challenge. Think about these practices from today, these 3 things that I shared: getting to know and allowing, trust, trust and trust, and being you. And the questions that I offered, right, along the way, whether they're the journal questions or kind of some of these reflection questions. The who am I? What do I know for sure in this moment? And what does my heart need? My challenge to you is to today's Thursday, to every day, Thursday, so today, you already did it, so you've got one day done. Friday, I'm including the weekend because we don't wait. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. If you take a step in the direction of any of those practices every day between today and Monday, and then on Monday, you email me, I will nudge you. There will be an email from me that says, how is it going? So all you'll have to do is hit reply, and you reply with either what it is you did or how you're feeling or a question that you had. You will get a surprise delight in the mail, in like the real mail, the snail mail. So that's my challenge to you. It is also a dare. I like to do dares, apparently. That's also a new thing for me. Hillary says, here's one thing I've learned so far. It's one thing to think I should do things for me. It's a whole other level to actually take focused time to explore who I really am at this season in my life. Oh, yes. Thank you, Hillary, for sharing. So with that, and to be mindful of time, I want to thank you all so, so much for being here, and then stay and answer questions. So if you can linger, please linger, and let's see if there are any questions. And Hillary Maggie says, yes, Hillary, no shoulds, no shoulding yourself to death, right? But I would love to know, what questions do you have? And for those of you that have already started the Thrive Unleashed journey, tell people what you're most excited about. But I will open the floor. You can unmute yourself and ask a question or type it into the chat box. So questions or even takeaways from today. You're all quiet. No questions. Any takeaways? Any brave takeaways?
I learned that I really miss the regular Thrive Circle get together. Like that was my tether. Like I can do my daily practices and I can do the things that I'm that I'm know I should Maggie do, but that was my real tether. That was like my live in person poke in the side. Hey, you need to do this. So without that, I needed poke in the side. So this was a great poke in the side. Like, oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so thank you, Hillary, right? For all the reasons. But so what that's about is the consistency aspect, right? And the creating a time that's on your calendar that is sacred and for a specific purpose. Now, the other reason that that particular piece is so powerful is because there's a group around it that you know you're showing up for and that is going to be showing up for you, which is why I am leaning so heavily in my work on these group experiences because I know the value of that. And I think that in terms of all of the coaching that I do, that's probably where what I do best, right? But so, yes. So, and for those of you that are wondering what's Thrive Circle, so Thrive Circle, if you think about Thrive Unleashed as like a marathon or ultra endurance event, then by staff, mwah, mwah, thank you. Uh, Thrive Circle is a 7-week journey, and the next Thrive Circle will start in March 30th. So information will start coming out about that in mid to late January, if that's of interest to people. But just know that but that's what it's about, right? It's the consistency, it's having a time on your calendar, and then it's the group experience. So thank you, Hillary, for sharing that. Kristen said, me
Question,
too.
Elena.
Yeah, Holly,
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Um,
So good to see you.
so I've never done a Thrive Circle. I've, thought about it, I hadn't pulled the trigger yet. Do you think it would still be beneficial to jump right in into Thrive Unleashed or wait until the Thrive Circle starts in March and do that instead?
So you do not need to wait. And the reason
Okay.
that I say that is because you've already been doing the work, right? So there would be some people that that answer would be different for. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why it's an application, right? So part of it is if somebody were brand new to me, could they still do Thrive Unleashed before Thrive Circle? Yes, because the Kickstart sessions are going to walk you through core values. Because there are some assumptions that when we start on January 8th, I want you to have some of the language, right? So that these people that have been together aren't like the mean girls, which they're not. They're the best ever out there, right? But in that sense, Holly, knowing you, and I hope it's okay for me to say that out loud because I just
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
right?
Of course.
It's there's a mindset. So I'm curating this group, right? This isn't for everybody, even in terms of their experience, but also their mindset and what they're open to and their level of attachment to old stories and excuses. And that's not you. So
Okay.
totally appropriate. And I'd
Okay.
be delighted. Let's
Thank you.
see. You're welcome. Thank you for asking. Great question. Kristen says there's a power within a group of women who are seeking a higher sense of self. Absolutely. Carol, thank you. And Hillary, mwah, thank you. And Carol had said she's super excited about Thrive Unleashed. Yes, help me Thrive Circle, help me get on track with goals. Yeah. All right. You are so welcome, Allison. Thank you for being here. Bye. Any other questions for those of you that are still here? Or comments? Or just, chatter? Because off to the dentist. Ooh, good fun. Thank you for being here, Kristen. And if I don't talk to you before, you're off to some amazing adventures this weekend. Have the best time. Welcome. All right. Marcia, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. All right. Any other questions or thoughts, anybody? Oh, I was going to put the link. Would you like me to put the link for the page in, Holly, or anybody else? I'll stick it in the chat box. That way, one day I'll have an assistant and they'll be working behind the scenes as I'm doing things. And it will be, yeah, no, I'm probably still going to be doing it. So there's the link. You're so welcome. Thank you so, so much for
Thank
being
you for
here.
everything. Thanks,
Oh,
Elena.
you're so welcome, Holly. Bye. Lori, do you have any questions? Thank you for being here. And Maggie on your walk. All right, everybody. If there aren't any other questions, I'm going to stop recording.